There is a difference between knowing God or knowing who he is and who he really is. Let me say that again. There's a difference between knowing who he is and who he really is. Now, am I saying that you don't know God? No. I'm saying you don't know all of him. I'm saying there's always more to God than what we know of him. And if your conception of God has not changed lately, I dare you to get to know him better. There's always more about God that he seeks to reveal to us. That's one of the reasons why there's such richness in the fact that the word shows us so many different names of God. He doesn't just have one name recorded in the word, because once you get to know him as that, he reveals himself as this. Once you know him as Jireh, he reveals himself as Rapha. And once you know him as Rapha, he reveals himself as Sitkanu. And once you know him as that, he reveals himself as Mekadesh or Mekadesh. And once you know him as that, he reveals it as Elohim. And all of these different ways that you come into the knowledge of who he is. But you never stop learning. Why? Because even to the extent that you have gotten, he's bigger than that. And I want to talk to you. I don't think I'm going to be up here long, but I want to talk to you on the subject. He's bigger than that. He's bigger than that. And the more you learn about God, the bigger he gets. You hear that? I'll say it again. The more you learn about him, the bigger he gets. What does that mean? Is God changing? Is God actually growing? No. But your understanding of him, your revelation of him is growing. If God is the same size today that he was last year this time, something's wrong in your process. You have to know more of God because there's always more of him to know. He's not growing, but we're learning more about him. There's a song that we sing, and it's really a statement, a declaration of awe. But I want to turn it into a question today. How great is our God? Instead of a statement, how great is our God? The question, how great? Or we make it personal. How great is your God? The things that vex us, the things that we lay before him, give it to me, I'll bear it. The question that I ask is, how great is your God? Has he grown enough to handle that problem? Because remember, he gets bigger and bigger as the song used to say, also one of the old songs said he gets sweeter and sweeter as the days go by. But here's the thing, he gets bigger and bigger as the days go by. Not because he's changing, but because your understanding of him, your knowledge of him is growing and developing. So the question is, at this stage in your life, with this level of revelation that you have of God at this point, is your God big enough to handle it? We know that he in who he is big enough. But my question is he in who you know him to be? There's a difference. You would almost say there's two gods. The one you know and the one that is. Now the one you know is still him, but it's not the fullness of who he is. There's only one time we saw the fullness of God made manifest. And the word said that was Jesus Christ. He was the fullness of the Godhead. But we don't have the fullness at this time. So the question is, the magnitude of your problem, is your God big enough? And I'll have enough faith to say yet. Because I'm trusting that he'll get there in your life if you let him. But is he big enough for it yet? So just how great is our God? Is he greater than your idea of him? Think about this. From the time that we start learning about God, he gets encapsulated in a box that we call God. That's who God is. And things that are not in the box aren't God. Right? So God is in this box, and hatred is not in the box because hatred's not God. Right? So God is in the box, and things that are in the box describe him, who I know him to be. Okay? So envy and strife and hatred and cruelty, that's not in the box. See, that's not God. But I found out something about God. God doesn't get out of the box per se, but as you grow in him, your box gets bigger. Because you realize, oh, my box was too small. There is more of him to know than what I had in the box. And see, the problem is religion won't let the box grow. Religion keeps God exactly how he was described to you last Sunday. Man. But realize, God is bigger than a sermon. Let me hurt your theology. God is bigger than the 66 books. Do you think that your God could be encapsulated in this? I say that not to diminish what this is or what it represents, but he's bigger than that. And that's one of the problems that we have is that if we isolate God to a sermon or if we isolate God to text on a page, he's not God. Because there are a finite number, there may be a lot, but there are a finite number of words in this book. When the book ends, does God? That's the question. When Revelation has the last word is amen. Is it over? So God is yet growing in our mind and in our thinking if we allow him to. So we say make the statement. If you got God all figured out, it's the wrong one. He said he don't even think on our level. His thoughts are higher. Yeah. So how can I wrap my mind around the intangible? My mind can't even reach, my thoughts can't even reach his thoughts. So how can I wrap my see, be careful about people who know all there is to know about God. We could, oh my God. How many people are like that? With titles, without titles, but can't be told anything because if there is a such thing as revelation, they have all there is. But God is bigger than that. A God who can be attained unto is not God. A God who has reached the limits of his ability with your prayer request is not God. So if you go into prayer afraid that he's not going to do it, what are you saying about how big your God is? I dare to think that we sometimes insult him with the spirit in which we approach him in prayer. Because he said the first thing you have to do when you come to me is believe that I am and that I am a rewarder of those who seek me. Yes. Not of those who seek to validate what they think about me, but those who seek me. Those who are willing to expand the box. And now people say, take God out of the box. Be careful. Because everything outside the box is not God. Boundaries regarding who God is a good thing. We just have to let God expand those boundaries as he sees fit. But one thing that's outside the box is hatred. Like I mentioned a couple of things before. Hatred, envy, and all those types of things. There are things that God is not. And we have to be careful in this New Age church, trying to do everything different and everything, and trying to take God out of the box. Well, we lose any sense of definition to God. You can't even say God is love because now we jacked up love and jacked up God, and there's no way to describe him at all because there's no tangible expression or means by which to even describe or know God. He's father, he's mother, he's child, he's uncle. Some of y'all have experienced this in churches where they just don't even know how to just even talk about it because they so, what's the word I'm looking for? They so made him abstract until he's no longer even a person. He's just an idea. Now be careful because in many churches, that's all he really is an idea. Because then what they say is, well, we're God. We are the universe. If you ever hear God called the universe, that's one of the catchphrases. Okay, I'm going too far now. Because, see, the universe didn't create itself. So somebody had to create it. So I'm not going to deify a created thing. But if we take God out of the box, we lose that ability to comprehend him to the extent that we can. But we have to be able to expand the box and believe that God is big enough to handle what we have here. Turn to Psalm 81. Psalm 81. Psalm 81. Talking about God being bigger than that. Now, in the previous few months, we have been involved in not an official series, but in a constant flow of thought that relates to vision, that relates to purpose, that relates to identifying why God created you, fulfilling that, seeking to live that, your dreams, your hopes, the things that you want to accomplish. We're still believing God to bring those things to pass. And we've been talking after we dealt with vision and purpose and putting together a vision plan and praying over our visions. We talked about expanding our faith, believing God for greater things. We even talked about last week. Expect the great. Believe God for more than we believed him for in the past. Hope against hope. When people call you a fool for believing it can possibly happen, you hope against hope. When you have no reason to hope, when you have no reason to trust, you believe God anyway, despite what they're saying, despite how it looks, despite what happened last time, you're still believing that God is well able to do what he said he would do. So we've been trying to really get us to settle this matter in our hearts. Because what God is about to do and break forth in our lives is going to require a level of faith that exceeds where we have been so far. But if you look here in Psalm 81, verse 10, I want to point out something that is going to really help you. We were talking last week about positioning yourself for the blessing. How I used the example of how we talked about if the window of heaven been opened up, that you had not room enough to receive in Malachi 3, I think it's like verse 10. And he says, he'll pour you out a blessing from the windows of heaven. But if you're not positioned to receive the blessing, you'll miss it. Now look here in verse 10. He says, I, the Lord, am your God. Now in the context, he's talking about don't let other strange gods get you astray. Don't fall into idolatry. I, the Lord, am your God. All right? I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you up from the land of Egypt. Watch what it says. Open your mouth wide, and I will fill it. Open your mouth wide, and I will fill it. As I was reflecting on this verse, I thought about, now, why didn't he just say, open your mouth? Because God is bigger than that. For a hungry people, God is not just trying to give you enough to get by. And I know the old saints used to start singing these songs about how, just one day at a time and just give me enough strength to climb the mountain. They forgot he told us to tell them to move the cats to the sea. They want to go up the rough side of the mountain. I ain't going to go rough side of no mountain. Get out the way! But they sang songs based on where they were and what they knew at the time. But I don't have time to climb a rough sides of mountains. I got things to do, right? So they talk about, well, one pastor said, don't give me too much or something, just give me enough to survive. I'm like, what? What? Are you crazy? First of all, we don't realize, that's selfish. Because if all you have is enough for you, how can you be a blessing in anybody else's life? So all we're thinking about is us. Lord, just give me enough to make it, to serve. No, God, give me an exceeding overflow because I want to be a blessing in somebody else's life. So God said, don't just open your mouth so I can put a little something in it to stop your stomach from grumbling. He says, I am the Lord your God, and in that I provide, I want you to open your mouth wide, and I will fill it. Now notice, last week I was talking about how God has a requirement of faith with us when it comes to what he wants to do in our lives. He's asking us to do something here. Now notice, before he fills it, he tells them, take a step of faith and expect much. You don't open your mouth wide unless you expect a lot to go in it. And God is saying, can you trust me enough to give you plenty? Or are you only making room for a little? How big is your God? God, I'm believing you for this, but I'm only going to make room enough for that. I'm praying and asking for this. This is the stupidest example I could possibly come up with, but just hear the point. So let's say that you're going to buy, I don't know, a couch. And you tell God, I want the biggest couch you can give me. And you build a platform to hold the new couch. And the weight limit on the couch, on the platform, is 10 pounds. So the platform that you're building to hold what you're expecting God to do can only support 10 pounds. What you just said to God is, God, give me the biggest couch you can, up to 10 pounds. Because I have just provided to you the limit of what I believe you're going to do. Okay? So when he says, open your mouth, if you only open it a little bit, you're providing the limit. God provides, but only this much. So what God says is, believe me enough, believe in my provision enough to open your mouth as wide as you can, because I am bigger than what you are asking for. But God, yesterday, you only gave me half a teaspoon. So today, I'm only expecting half a teaspoon. Therefore, I'm only going to open my mouth to the point of half a teaspoon. God said, listen, you learn more about me every day. I become bigger every day. Your expectation of me should be bigger than what I did for you yesterday. Now, maybe yesterday I healed you through medicine, but maybe today I want to heal you miraculously. Open your mouth wide and I will fill it. We have got to release God from the limits of our expectation. Believe. Here's the thing. Be willing to receive that which God gives, but believe him for much. Well, that'll take you all the way through till the Lord come back right there, that one statement. Be willing to receive whatever he decides in his sovereignty to give, but expect much. I quote so often, and it's interesting how it lines up with some of my messages, because it's just been where we've been the last few months. But in Ephesians 3, he specifically says, unto him who is able. Now, if we skip the description, it says he's able to do what you ask or think. But the text says he's able to do exceeding abundantly, above all you ask of me. Yeah. So what he's saying is, I can do more than you in your wildest dreams would dare to believe. But if you're not even believing for it, you're not releasing me to do it. You got to start with an ask or think.
You gotta teach us today.
He doesn't just do just to do. You have to start believing him for more. And when you get to the point where you say, okay, God, this is it, think, God, you're bigger than this. If he can do above and beyond all I can ask and think, I want to make sure I think the biggest thing I can possibly do. So he can exceed it. Because God is that great. And I want to see these things take place. Not just for my children's children. I want to see it take place in my lifetime. So that I can, David said, while I live, will I yet praise him. I want to be able to bless him with my mouth because I've seen with my own eyes the goodness of the Lord. He said, I would have fainted, except I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. I want to see this. I want to experience it so that when I do pass down to the next generation, I'm telling them what I know. I'm not just telling them to believe a God I heard about. I'm telling them, baby, I've seen him work. I've seen him do it. Not what was, honey, Pastor preached years and years ago. That God is, now I've never seen him heal, but Pastor preached, he's a healer. Do you see? As long as the word goes forth, it's still good, but I want to see it. I want to experience it. I want to tell people what I know. I can stand with them because they can hear my testimony and know if he did it for you, he can do it for me. There's a passage in Hebrews that says that we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. All these people who have seen him do it because they lived and experienced the greatness of God. So when God says, open your mouth wide, what he is saying, what he is asking you to do is to have a big, wide expectation of what he's going to do. And what I want to say to you is this. We're coming up on a new year, 2016. And don't just wait till then. You can believe him for tomorrow. But especially in 2016, as we broach this new period, this new phase of our personal lives, of this ministry, I want us to exercise this greater level of expectation. I want to exercise this wideness of mouth because we are expecting things. We are expecting God. You know what? I'm expecting things that I don't even have the brain power enough to process. Hallelujah. Just do it because I deserve it. No, just do it because you're God. Do it because you're bigger than what you did in 2015. I'm grateful for what you did. You gave me many reasons to praise you, God, but do a greater work. Because now that you've done that, that's my ask. That's my thing. Now you have to exceed it. See, we used to say back in the day, every round goes higher and higher. It has to. Because if he stops doing greater, then you get stuck in a cycle and God stops getting bigger. That's right. So he always has to outdo what he did before. Yes. And I want him to. Release your power. Yes. And let your presence fall, God. Yes. Do, God, what we've seen you do. But do above and beyond it. It's not that I'm not content, but God, I'm not satisfied. I gotta say it again. Be content in whatever state you find yourself, but never be satisfied as though God has done the best he can do. He's always bigger than that. So I ask this question as I part from you. Could it be possible that we haven't experienced God on the level that we have the right to because we have not opened our mouths wide. Could it be that it wasn't he didn't want to do it? One of the ways that we have tried to rationalize the prayer not being answered is, nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. It didn't happen, so God, I submit to your will. Sometimes it wasn't his will for it not to happen. But we didn't open our mouths widely enough. And sometimes like God is in heaven saying, don't put that on me. I wanted to bless you, but you didn't expect more. You only expected what happened last time. I need you to let me prove myself mighty in your life. Open your mouth wide. And notice what he says. Open your mouth wide. And not I will put something in it. I will fill it. I will fill it. And if I could borrow from David over the 23rd Psalm, until your mouth runs over. No matter how big your mouth, be a snake and knock that sucker out of socket. Right? He said, I'll fill it until it overflows. If you have enough gumption, if you have enough boldness and audacity to believe that I'm bigger. So 2016, he's getting bigger. He is getting bigger and bigger. And these words, the words that went forth to everybody today, I'm telling you, take this as confirmation. He is about to do some things, but you got to raise your expectation. And I'm going to tell you what's wonderful about the prophetic ministry. Prophecy gives us an ask or think. It gives us a word to latch on to and say, okay, God, do it. But now I dare you to open wide.